What's up, tribe? Thank you for being here and welcome to my channel. This post is titled The Sexuality, and I haven't read it just yet, so we're reading this together. Are you guys ready? This is a dialogue between Matias and his higher self, so we'd be referring to Matias as me and his higher self as I am. Me. Perhaps this is one of the issues that is most difficult to speak freely because the larger cultures on planetary level maintain a certain modesty when talking about those parts of the body, the genitals. I am. Well, it is normal when someone wants to escape from their reality. Me. In what way? I am. The first humans did not believe in God. They believed in what they saw, in the magic of nature. They called her the Mother, who gave everything available. In the world, there is everything we need. We just have to look for it. Set an objective, unite willpower, and take action. Advance. And along the way, you will find what you need or look for. Thus, divinity was understood in the plants that gave their fruits, in the animals that gave their products and companionship, in the minerals that gave home and tools, and in the stars. The ancestors protected them, despite the daily dangers. There was enormous certainty that one lived in paradise, that everything was already here in this world, until at one point certain philosophers and religious looked to the heaven and thought that perhaps that divinity was in the celestial vault, in the sun, the moon, and the constellations. Thus, they created the stories of the gods, and they told their exploits in the heavens. They made humans fall in love, making them wish one day they could live with the gods in heaven, be like them. Thus arose the currents of thought that when we died, instead of returning to nature, we could live eternally in the ideal place together with the gods that we saw in the heavens. Until one day, one said, "It's a mistake to think that all gods are right, since they all live very worldly, like the worst humans, with their basic desires and needs. This cannot be. There has to be one that regulates them all, a god over them, the sun." But someone refuted this theory, saying no, that there was much more, which was the space between the stars. What we cannot see is the true God, to whom they should aspire. And from that vision, it is very easy to decorate attributes to something that does not have them. Thus, humans stopped looking at the attributes of nature and filled God with preconceived attributes in His image and likeness, according to their beliefs of how this imaginary God should be. Then everyone wanted to live with Him because all their dreams would come true. But there was one condition. To get to heaven, you had to abandon the mundane, basically leaving nature, abandoning Mother. Me, almost like the first great divorce in history in divine terms. For this reason, we humans begin to deny our natural and animal parts. I am, exactly. In an effort to seek enlightenment in the invisible paradise of an ideal God, they rejected everything that made them human. That is, it was directly considered a mistake to have even been born in this world, almost as a punishment, like the father who threw them out from home and gave them conditions to return. Me, I understand. Therefore, denying from the navel down, because the navel's almost a seal of the mundane, of having had to be born, which ties us to the mother. I am, and to get to the Father, the umbilical cord had to be cut. Only then would we find comfort in his arms. Me, very patriarchal everything. I am, well, they are cycles of history. Me, so most cultures denied sex, blocked their genitals, and basically caused all of humanity's traumas. I am, as we speak, in the base chakra. The genitals are the engine that starts the machinery of the body, making it advance towards the spiritual plane, while the sacrum is responsible for generating the energy fuel. The root chakra will absorb this energy to catapult to the top. Me, Kundalini, the serpent of light, the spiral of energy that ignites in our root chakra to illuminate in the crown. I am. And to activate the snake of light, you need to know the engine very well. Clean it, bleed it, recognize it, use it properly. It's an engine that humanity has rusted, worn dirty, cursed, which has dragged it to the point of calling it the shame. Me, and this has been passed down generation after generation. The repression of sexuality has been the root of great evils, such as trauma, rape, repression of women, patriarchal control, violence. I am, because an engine full of fuel, accelerating but not moving forward, burns and can ignite the whole car. Imagine reviving the engine but being parked. Most people get in the car. It weighs more effort, and each new person who gets in puts more fuel, emotions, conflicts, energetic food, but it does not move forward. It never leaves, because moving this car from its parking lot is considered a shame. Counterproductive to the religious and moral civilization that only seeks to reach the arms of a God who has invented. I guess there's a typo here. It's meant to be a God who they've invented. Anyway. Me, yes, it's hard. But you also have to understand that in the search to transcend, to want to be better, the image of God is like idyllic, that Greek hero, King of Kings, Father, that everyone would like to have or be, with which they would like to live, and that helps them to want to improve in life, since their rules to enter their house are basically the morals and ethics that from the peoples. I am, yes, such a point of view is understandable from the conceptual view of point. If it weren't for the fact that the facts show otherwise. Never have so many sins been committed together as since the emergence of ideological monotheisms. For they guide people to seek heaven as the highest reality, thus despising the earth as their prison, believing themselves superior to everything related to the mundane, dividing social classes, races between inferior and superior, the connoisseurs above the apprentices, the men above the women, the boys below. and below them the girls. Animals and plants are mere gifts from God, soulless products for humans to use at their mercy and will. Me, sure. Not to mention that there have been more wars, deaths, and rapes of all kind during the expansion of monotheistic religions than any other time in history. The great advances of humanity occurred during the periods of history in which humans turned to look at the mother, at nature, in which they reopened their sexuality to be reborn. The Renaissance, then, began to be one of the keys that reawakened the concepts of equality, art, nature, human as natural, and non-divine agent, which led to the search for natural study, science, recovery of free publics and freedoms. How many things can be achieved when we free ourselves from the image that the divine is in heaven and we recognize the sacredness of the mundane. Well, that God you call has created nature in his image and likeness. So by looking down again to honoring our roots, we can flourish. I am like a beautiful tree with strong roots. This will take time, as we are right now in a transitional period in human history, when repression exploded into debauchery. Too long have you repressed this chakra and its organs. It is normal. The flow of energy in a body is like a river with enormous force that flows into the sea. The rains create the streams of the sacred, which unite, falling with force in the waterfalls of the root chakra, which gives power to the journey of life, along the rocky paths that mold the being, towards the fertile valleys of the heart, reaching the populated with their merchants in the throat, nourishing the temples of the philosophers and palaces of the politicians in the pineal, opening in a beautiful delta, expanding in the temples of the divinity, like the Nile. Atartumti, heaven on earth, as we said. But now all that beauty stopped. The rains stopped, and a huge dam was built in the middle of its path, in its navel. The force of the waters now stop at a huge lake, and only a fine thread of water reaches the sea. In the rainy season, the water no longer runs freely and is regulated by civilization. This allows more and more villages to spread out where water once generated huge, fertile territories, and break nature like a cancer along the spinal cord. Now suppose that one day it rains so much water that the dam cannot sustain so much force, and it collapses, it cracks, breaks, and a gigantic wave begins to sweep away everything in its path towards the sea, claiming the territory that belonged to it. Humanity is now on the crest of this wave, of a dam that has been broken. But one day it will stabilize. It will reach its normality, as long as the struggle to create walls and dams is not continued. Thus, the rise of the Nile will be natural, as it always was. It is normal then that today we are living one of the most sexual periods in history. I am, the more humans, the more energy. Me, and how do I regulate it? I am, first understanding what sexuality is. Of course, there is a wrong concept. Speaking from the energy plane, this root center is one that connects us with positive and negative forces, generators of the energy explosion. On a physical level, it is related to the ovaries and testicles, creators of the hormones that originate in the basic matter of life. The testes produce androgen hormones, of which the best known and the most present is testosterone, which encourages the creation of sperm, and the ovaries produce progesterone and estrogens, which prepare the ovules and uterus for gestation, and in turn, the nerve endings and veins of the penis and clitoris stimulate the activation of this energy. There is in the perineum and anal nerve endings, energetic flashes are generated, sent from the brain and the hypophysis, from the spiritual crown, which encourage reproduction in order to manifest the spirit in matter. Thus, sexual stimulation becomes a way of attracting emotional and spiritual energy towards materialization. Sex comes from the Latin word secere, which means to cut or divide. It is the way in which the differentiation of the two biological genders was known, man and woman. We could therefore understand that in sex there are two ways of channeling information, one inward and downward, female, and another outward and upward, male, which generates the balance of both creative forces, not as opposite, but as complementary. And it also gives us the option to understand that the same forces can move from the gross and subtle planes. The gross plane would be to use up sexual energy for a momentary need, and the subtle plane would be to use it for a purpose. Me, how could it be better understood? I am, well, the dense is egoic. All you seek is personal satisfaction, the discharge of accumulated tension, of an energy without purpose other than that of personal desire. The subtle implies a sharing, either at the level of the soul and the spirit, with the body, or with another person, seeking sensations and feelings. Me, so the subtle spirituality is not like the sacred, which is only used for the kundalini and the connection with the spirit. I am, oh no, of course not. Kundalini and Tantra are spiritual doctrines, but not natural on earth. The subtle and dense visions refer to the way in which sexuality is lived on a day-to-day basis, while Tantra and Kundalini Yoga are specific tasks of the spiritual apprentice who seeks to work with the energy of his body to reach the spiritual world. But don't get too excited about it. If you're still ashamed of your genitals, don't pretend to find enlightenment. Me, I eat. Again, this comes up whenever, because this is translated from Spanish, I'm assuming this means how come. Anyway, I am. You cannot claim to use sexual energy to fulfill your ideals of enlightening yourself. As we always speak, humans tend to fashions, to believe that if they now use these tools, they will be able to advance faster on a spiritual level because you have integrated the base chakra. No. First, you must be at peace with these organs. Did you experience abuse? Have you abused someone? Did you rape? Or did they rape you? Did they forbid you to talk about sex and tell you that it's dirty? Do you have a sexual addiction? Do you think that it's a taboo subject? Are you ashamed to even read the word sex or masturbation? Do you know what it is to feel an orgasm? Did they judge you for your sexual inclination? Are you afraid to say what you like? Answer all these questions. Work on your traumas, on your repressions, and when you feel free enough, then start the study of Tantra. Me, sure, the most important thing is first to feel comfortable yourself with the sexual issue. I've been through all those stages myself. Well, not all. I never experienced any type of repression or abuse, but I was very ashamed of my genitals since I was a little. I remembered more lives as a woman than a man, and having a penis and testicles made me feel bad, much shame, even more so when I had to admit that I liked men, something that for a long time I thought was wrong, not because they made me think that about my family, but because of two things: the teasing at school that made me feel very sad and unsure of myself, as well as the fact that I believed that I only liked men because I was still confused with the memories of having been a woman. It took me years to accept my genitalia and my sexuality, but not because of society, but not knowing how to differentiate if it was a characteristic of this life or unclaimed inheritances from other lives. Which leads me to ask, are our sexual choices karmic issues? Everything is karma. Everything is action and reaction. However, as I have always said, karma is not bad. It's an apprenticeship that can become mastery. Dharma, to become a teacher, learning is not eliminated. It's integrated. Thus, karma and dharma are complementary, not opposite. Karma must not be eliminated. It must be integrated, and to do so, one must give it a purpose, understand why, give it a utility. Me, even so, it doesn't have to do with reproduction, male and female. Sex speaks of the separation of the genders into two biologically recognizable. Sexuality speaks of the energetic exchange between the feminine and the masculine. It is not necessary to reproduce here. It can only be produced. In Latin, the word to be together does not imply sex. It implies going together, which comes from the words come with and itium, from the verb to go, to have gone, which you call intercourse. Sexuality is sharing. It is joining energy forces. You just have to identify it. If it is dense, egoic, and from need, or subtle, shared, and from love. Me, I understand. You once said that the most important thing is to learn to live sexuality with yourself before with others. That's right, because by knowing your own energy, you will know what you are sharing. This is essential, because in sexual relations, a lot of energy is usually lost if we do not know how to take care of it. And taking care of it means recognizing it, knowing that it exists, knowing what's your capacity to generate it again. Me, and how do I do? I am, well, learn to control your sexual energy. Imagine that the week is your body and that each day is a chakra. So there'll be a 7-day or 10 in case of the Atlantean calendar that will correspond to the root chakra. And one of its aspects will be the sexual nature of your body. That day, you should spend a moment on your sexuality. In women, this helps to unblock energy channels throughout the body, in addition to regenerating cells during orgasms, due to the electrical discharge they receive. In men, it makes the testicles and prostate remain active like a muscle that must be exercised, or they can atrophy, producing diseases and energy blockages that trigger anger, discomfort, and the rest of the days. You have to use that energy for something creative. Paint a little bit of the same painting every day. Meditate for 5 minutes, bringing the energy of your genitals to your head, with the imagination of your hands through deep breaths. Or go for a walk, just to observe. Small acts where you focus your energy. Thus, at the time of the intercourse, you can do the same. Bring the focus of this energy to the head with deep breaths, which will not only prolong the relationship, but will also generate more energy. And instead of ending up tired and having felt that you have lost vitality, you will have recovered it, having greater strength to do more things in the day and the week. Me, good advice from a spirit that has never had sex. I am, well, but I have downloaded many experiences from many lives in many worlds. Me, that's true. I am, therefore, you know, the power of the spirit lies in the power of your genitals. As long as you know how to value them for the root that they are, your tree will flourish more than ever. Me, as we said here in Chem, Wix Yura Hayamur. Sex is the door to enlightenment and the preamble to chaos if it is done from unconsciousness. I am. Breathe in and return to Mother Nature, for it is the only way you will get to heaven. Me, the cosmic orgasm.